What's up, guys? Good evening and welcome to Roma Theory. A week of absolute cinema, I would say, but not good cinema. A week of absolute chaos. This week is effectively why Ranieri got it completely wrong, because you feed bait to the media and the media destabilizes you. And all the media speaks about is this. And you can't really blame them because that is their job. And this exact point is exactly why Ranieri fucked up. Because it was avoidable. Because it wasn't necessary to feed all of this bait to the media. Preparing a situation before a very important game on Saturday evening against Atalanta at home, where the only thing that the media speaks about is conflicts. The environment inside of Trigoria can't be healthy if this is all the media speaks about, and if this is all the attention gets. So, look, I've reflected on what happened last weekend. I've reflected on a lot of things. I also read quite different perspectives. Again, I strongly believe that we will never know the truth. And this is something that I want to start off by saying. You know, we don't work inside Trigoria. We don't live inside Trigoria. We don't know what happens inside that building, inside that, around that area. We simply don't. So you can read, yes, you can read whatever you want. You can have contacts if you're famous. But at the end of the day, you're never really sure what happens, right? You're not really sure what happens inside. And I think that is exactly the biggest danger here, is that we are, in a sense, imagining all of these things. But at the end of the day, we know nothing. So that is a very big danger of pretty much this specific scenario, but everything that we read online. Well, look, the first thing that I'll say again is that I just don't understand why Ranieri said that on Friday. I simply, after 7 days from that, I still need to understand the purpose of this. I still need to understand why Ranieri used some words, certain tones. Yes, the answer is simple. Ranieri and Gasperini fell out, absolutely. But you are contractually bounded to do the good of the club, to do the good of this team, to do the good of the fans. And I simply don't understand why, how, and what went across Claudio Ranieri's mind when he kind of unleashed himself last Friday. Because I see it like this. I think after days and days and days of reading what kind of happened, what the relationship has been, my conclusion is that he simply could have no longer kept everything to himself. So he was in a position to go, I simply cannot tolerate this man anymore. I will unleash my bombs. But that's not. But again, that is not doing the good of the club. That is not doing the good of the team. And what all the shit that happened this week will have repercussions on Saturday's game. This is a fact. This is a fact. We'll do a match preview tomorrow. I don't see us winning on Saturday. Now, again, this is because nothing shouts positivity to me at the moment. But I'll be dead ass. I don't think we'll win on Saturday. And yes, it's because of the injuries, absolutely. Yes, because I think Atalanta have a better team than you. But at the end of the day, the cherry on the cake is this. You have created this cauldron of mess, of absolute mess that you simply could have avoided. Because against Ranieri, I would say, look, I love the man. People who are on Ranieri's side, because I think we will have to pick a side here. As I said previously, and I strongly believe this after having insisted day after day this week, there is no chance that Gasperini and Ranieri stay together. There is absolutely no way that next season Gasperini and Ranieri work together. So us fans in how much we want, but the owners will have to come to a conclusion. It is an either me or him situation. That there is no way that the two reconcile after what happened. The tensions are very high, and regardless of whatever we read, is it true? Is it not true? It is true. This is true. The fact that the tensions between these two are very high is a fact. Then, of course, the details of Gasperini didn't say hi to Ranieri on Tuesday morning when entering instead of Trigoria. Those are details that I tell you we will never know. But the general picture is that these two fell out. The general picture is that I think there have been a series of events that Ranieri hasn't liked. I can list you a few. I think at the very beginning of the season, I remember a press conference. There were numerous press conferences where Gasperini didn't complain, because I don't think Gasperini ever massively complained, but had little digs at the transfer session, at the players not being bought. So little digs now and there in press conferences. I think the two biggest halts for me that kind of broke this relationship, if I need to trace them back, or what Gasperini said after we got eliminated from the Coppa Italia against Torino, because I remember word by word what he said after that game. He said, if the owners want me to start a young project, they might as well tell me now, because if they're only gonna sign young players, then maybe myself, I won't impose the Champions League to myself. And I think those words were a bit of like, those words came after an elimination of the Coppa Italia, which does burn. And those words, I think, came after the 25 million spent on Robinho Vaz, which, again, we've said many times, we're not criticizing the player, but the investment maybe was not what we needed. And after that game, I remember Gasperini saying, if all we want to buy is young players and start a young project, fine. But, tell me now, because then we can kind of remodule our objectives a little bit, because we're not going to get the Champions League if this is the team. That's the number one. The number two, I think, is actually something that I've seen a few people speak about. And it's that dinner that Gasperini had with Totti. And apparently after that dinner a few months ago, maybe like a month and a half ago, a lot of people were saying that neither the owners and neither Ranieri were kind of informed about that dinner. And that was kind of a way going, maybe I see you in my future instead of Ranieri. So I think you trace back events which inevitably have triggered this relationship. You've come to the conclusion where Ranieri last Friday went, I can't deal with this guy anymore. I'm gonna unleash the bombs. And he said what he said. And then, of course, Gasperini didn't react publicly, but he reacted internally this week. And from what we're reading, tensions are high. And but the thing here is that I want to focus in a second is where we're gonna go next. What happens next is what I want to focus on. Just a few things on just some last few things on this scenario. The fact that, how old is Gasperini? I just want to get this right. Gasperini is 68 years old, and Claudio Ranieri is 74 years old. Now, the fact that two people who in another life could effectively be my grandparents are behaving like 10 years old, for me, is the most embarrassing thing. Like, for me, the most embarrassing thing to this is this. Because, in life, you can fall out. In life, you can make mistakes. That's all part of the human process. But in life, you also need to, after having in a way declared war to each other, you tend to, especially if you're 70 years old or 68 years old, and not 12 years old and 10 years old, you tend to okay, I've fucked up, you fucked up. How about we sit down and try to solve our shit together? And the fact that this is not happening is embarrassing because, as I said, these are two people that in any other lifetime could be my grandparents. We're not speaking about 10 years old. Oh, he stole my candy. Fuck that little kid. I'm not speaking to him anymore. Anymore. No. No, you're speaking about two men, grown men. So, for me, the thing that for me makes no sense is exactly this. Um, um, but as I said in the last video, I think but the fish stinks from its head. These are things that happens because of this board, not because of this board, because of this ownership. I ask myself how it's possible that multi-billionaires have no idea on how to handle a football club. Like, this is a question that I am massively intrigued in wanting an answer to. Like, you are multi-billionaires. You have got money that me and probably you out there cannot even imagine written down. Which means that you're successful at, ruling, investing. I have no idea how it's possible that multi-billionaires have literally got no fucking clue on how to rule a football club, on how to handle a football club. Because it is not possible that every single season shit happens. Like, I'm not joking, every single season we don't move forward. Ever since they came, we haven't moved forward. Every single season, ever since these guys came in, Roma has effectively declared war with itself. Nobody else has declared war on us. We've declared war to ourselves, which then leads us to bombing everything, a catastrophe, restarting from scratch. And then we try to build, fuck you. These are questions that I ask myself, how it's possible that multi-billionaires have got no idea on how to handle a football club. And what I blame the owners in this situation, number one, is their presence. Because by not being here, you are allowing this fake hierarchy of who is actually the ruler if you're never here. So people will start going, well, they're never here. They effectively didn't assign you're the president when I'm not here. So, people go against each other. There is no order inside of Trigoria. And number two, what I blame is this role that they gave to Ranieri. What is this role that they gave to Ranieri supposed to mean? This hybrid role where Ranieri never speaks. Ranieri only spoke twice this season. He's not the president in a way because he never speaks. And this idea of never speaking just doesn't help. So we've come to this conclusion. Going, what happens next? And what happens next is probably the one between Gasperini and Ranieri will leave. Now, from what reliable sources have said, these reliable sources include Filippo Biafora and Matteo Moretto, who is Fabrizio Romano's bro. Both of them have said yesterday that the ownership is orientated in giving confidence to the manager and in continuing with the manager, which will probably mean that Ranieri will leave. And I think it's the solution. I think you can't send the manager away. You simply can't. You decided to go with Gasperini. You simply cannot stop this after 1 year. Like, you can't, and they know that they can't do this, which is why I'm not gonna put my hand on fire, because with these owners you never know. Like, they can wake up one day thinking that, and then the next day they think the complete opposite. They're extremely bipolar. So I would never put my hand on fire that they are going to make this decision 100%. But they are definitely orientated in picking the manager. Also because replacing Ranieri is easier. Now again, the traditionalist fans won't like this because Ranieri represents Romanism, but the traditionalist fans won't accept the fact that Ranieri has made a mistake. And that Ranieri is the person to be blamed the most because of this whole scenario, because he's the one who started this. And in Gasperini's defense, I must say that there was never a time where Gasperini publicly attacked Ranieri. Again, little digs now and there are usual. This is who Gasperini is. If you don't want this, you didn't have to appoint him. That it was as simple as this. But I never remember a time where Gasperini attacked Ranieri like Ranieri attacked Gasperini. So again, if you sack the manager, or even if you force the manager to resign, which is the same thing effectively, because if Gasperini resigns, effectively it means that you sacked him in a way, because you didn't prepare the conditions for him to thrive. If Gasperini is not the manager next season, I'm going to honestly say it, I give up. I give up, and I am so tired of hoping in something new. The manager needs to stay. Now, one thing that I will open, because again, I feel like when analyzing these complicated dilemmas, you need to look at all sides, right? You can't just... It's very easy to go, oh, it's only Ranieri's fault. I think Ranieri is primarily the one to be blamed here. Absolutely, I think this. Well, I think the owners are, but in this head-to-head boxing fight, Claudio Ranieri, Gianpiero Gasperini, I tend to primarily blame Ranieri for starting all of this. I think it's wrong, on the other hand, to say that Ranieri is the only one to be blamed. Gasperini is not exempt from blame. I've said this many times. One thing that Gasperini needs to change in is, maybe from what we're gathering, the idea that he cannot get everyone that he wants. And he needs to understand that we do have financial problems. I'll give this to Ranieri. You know, Ranieri probably got out of his mind because this guy kept on insisting on names, and therefore all of these digs that he threw effectively didn't make sense to him. Fine, I will blame Gasperini on this. He needs to understand that we're not Real Madrid. But I also feel like he is right in a sense that I struggle to believe that he picked a lot of these names. So, again, everyone is to be blamed. Because at the end of the day, if this is a circus, because it's a circus, because you've got this, we're a circus football club. We simply are a circus football. We've become a circus football club because there's no order. Animals roam around in a circus like they want. Imagine, it's the same exact scenario. Like, imagine a circus, the organization of a circus, without people who clean the cages, without people who set order behind the curtains. Like, it's a mess. Animals would run around, roam around, shit everywhere. You need order. You need stability. So the conclusion to this is that we're a circus because everybody does whatever the fuck they want. That's the problem here. Everyone is focusing maybe on their own interests and not on the interests of the football club, which is very, in a sense, strange for a person like Claudio Ranieri. So, again, then there needs to be an element of order, because otherwise it will be like this. No matter who you put on the bench, no matter who you put as director of football, as senior advisor, this guy will send that guy. You know, you get my point. You get my point. What happens next? I'm very, 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 oh my god, I can't wait. I honestly cannot wait for tomorrow's press conference. I expect something to come out from tomorrow's press conference. Tomorrow's press conference is probably the biggest press conference of the season. I'm so curious to see what Gasperini says. And I'm also very curious to see if Ranieri goes to the stadium on Saturday. Because I will say it, if Ranieri isn't present at the stadium on Saturday, I expect him to resign. That's my prediction. Sorry, my dad is peeing in the bathroom, so if you're hearing some, it's his pee. If Ranieri isn't present on Saturday, I think next week Ranieri resigns. Or maybe everything is postponed at the end of the season. But this is a very big hazard for two reasons. Number one, because if you keep this crisis going, it will affect the team even more. So you need to try and solve it as soon as possible. And number two, because you need to start thinking about next season. The summer transfer market needs to already have been started. That's something that we all agree on, right? Because otherwise, the programming of next season, the first names on the transfer list need to be there. So if we're doing all of this amidst the crisis with people who probably won't be here next season, then again, it's just the same shit every time. So I think these next few days, very important when it comes to Roma. And tomorrow we will focus on the game, I promise. I just wanted to do this because this is all the media spoke about this week. But number two, also for the future of this club. Also what Gasperini says tomorrow, what Gasperini says post-game on Saturday. If Ranieri is present at the stadium, these are all signs that will give you a hint. Because this ownership doesn't speak. This board doesn't speak. The only things that we can get and achieve and obtain to try and indicate our future and see where we're going is these little hints. And the thing that makes me pissed is that at the end of the day, we are the ones that ultimately get targeted the most, because we're the ones who care the most, and it's a circus every time. It is a circus every time. Anyways, we'll see what happens. I'm gonna read a few comments and then I will end it. Gasp needs to stay. I don't know what the point of this club. The owners must get him what he needs. Hello from Montreal. What in all the saints is going on? I'm actually coming to Montreal, mate, to study next year for 6 months. So every time I read the word Montreal now, I get excited. I'll be there from August to Christmas. End of August to Christmas. Ranieri acting like he's the owner. Who you gonna sign? Amorim? Low? Ciao bro, could you see Conte going for the Italy job? Oh yeah, for sure. I think Conte will end up there. And if Ranieri leaves Roma, I see Ranieri maybe doing something with the Italian national team. Or he just retires and what he said on Friday before the Pisa is like a way out. That could be another case. People will laugh about this, but in a way, it makes sense. Ranieri's tired, Ranieri's old, Ranieri wants to retire. Ranieri has understood that his role isn't that important as maybe he thought it would be. What he said before the Pisa game is kind of a way going, sack me. I don't want to be here anymore. I love this club, but I'm 74 years old. I can't deal with this shit anymore. Let me out. Let me free. I can see that happening. Now, again, we joke on this, but that is another scenario. Dan inherited his father's business. Absolutely, I love Ranieri, but the role he has is strange. What level of authority does he have? Exactly. But these are all problems that amidst these crises or the issues, because nobody knows what position they actually have. Nobody speaks. Nobody rules, but then he rules, but then he can't rule, but then he's a hybrid, but then he's not a hybrid. What can Ranieri do? Ranieri is a senior advisor to the ownership. We've understood this. What the fuck does that mean? That he kind of picks the phone and goes, hey Dan, I've got Gasperini here who wants to speak to you. And then he goes, Gasperini, I've got Dan Fredkin on the phone. What the fuck does a senior advisor mean? Senior advisor, advising the ownership. Fine. Okay, advising the ownership. But then if you're a senior advisor of the ownership, you don't attack the manager like you did, or at least you need their consent to do it. And that's the other issue here. Did the owners give Ranieri a consent to say that before the Pisa game? Because if that's the case, then I'm not that sure they pick Gasperini over Ranieri, if they allowed Ranieri to say that, right? Because if the owners before the Pisa game went, yeah, fine, you can say this, we completely agree with you, then it means that they want the manager out. So the other thing that we need to understand here, that we will never know, but the crucial nail to this scenario is what Ranieri said before the Pisa game. Was it allowed? Well, like, was it agreed with the owners or not? Because that changes, that flips the perspective and the future scenario from this to this. Anyways, let's focus on the team, because that's what we do best and that's what we can do. I'll catch you tomorrow with a match preview, and we're going to mention some things that Gasperini says in the press conference, because I'm very looking forward to it. And hit the like, subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. See you out.